Chapter 11, The Language of Symbols. Before written alphabets, before formal theology, before organized philosophy, humanity spoke in symbols. A symbol is more than a picture. It is compressed meaning. It carries layers of understanding within a single image. Ancient civilizations did not separate knowledge into rigid categories: science, religion, psychology. Instead, they expressed understanding through symbolic forms that united these dimensions. The language of symbols was the first universal language. When early humans observed the sky, the cycles of the sun and moon, the movements of stars, they did not write equations. They drew circles, spirals, crosses, and intersecting lines. These shapes were not decorative. They were visual maps of experience. A circle symbolized wholeness and continuity. A spiral symbolized growth and unfolding. A cross symbolized intersection, where opposites meet. These forms appear across continents and cultures that had no direct contact with one another. This suggests that symbolic language arises naturally from shared human experience. Symbols work differently than words. Words divide and define. Symbols unify and suggest. A single image can hold multiple interpretations simultaneously. It invites contemplation rather than instruction. In ancient temples and sacred spaces, symbols were carefully arranged. Carvings on stone walls told stories without paragraphs. The placement of a figure, the direction it faced, the object it held, all conveyed meaning. To understand ancient knowledge, one must learn to read symbols rather than translate them literally. For example, when a deity is shown holding the sun in one hand and the moon in the other, the message is not physical possession. It represents mastery over duality, light and darkness, consciousness and reflection. When a serpent coils around a staff, it symbolizes energy rising, transformation, and renewal. When wings appear behind a figure, they symbolize transcendence or elevation of awareness. These images functioned as teaching tools. Ancient initiatory traditions did not always transmit knowledge through direct explanation. Instead, they presented symbolic imagery that required interpretation. Understanding developed gradually through reflection and experience. Symbols also connected outer observation with inner awareness. The sun in the sky mirrored vitality in the body. The moon mirrored emotional rhythm. The zodiac mirrored the unfolding of time. Thus, symbols created correspondence between cosmos and human being. In sacred geometry, lines and shapes were not merely aesthetic. They expressed proportional relationships found in nature. The triangle symbolized stability and trinity. The square symbolized foundation. The circle symbolized unity. When combined, these forms created complex diagrams that encoded philosophical ideas. Even numbers carried symbolic weight. As discussed in earlier chapters, certain numerical patterns repeated across architecture and myth. The recurrence of these patterns was intentional, reinforcing structural harmony. Symbolism allowed knowledge to survive time. Empires fell, languages changed, but carved symbols remained visible. A circle carved into stone thousands of years ago still communicates continuity today. However, symbolic literacy has declined in the modern world. We often seek literal meaning, direct explanation, yet symbols resist reduction. They require contemplation. When we encounter ancient imagery today, we may be tempted to dismiss it as myth or superstition, but symbols are not claims of literal events. They are frameworks for understanding patterns. For instance, the image of a tree connecting heaven and earth appears in many cultures. This world tree is not botanical instruction, it is symbolic structure. Roots represent foundation. Trunk represents connection. Branches represent expansion. The tree becomes a model of existence itself. Similarly, celestial symbols encoded astronomical observation within narrative. A hero slaying a dragon might represent the sun overcoming winter darkness. A goddess descending into the underworld might represent the moon's disappearance. Without symbolic interpretation, such stories appear fantastical. With symbolic awareness, they reveal encoded knowledge. Symbols also serve a psychological function. They externalize inner processes. Transformation, fear, aspiration, these intangible experiences become visible through imagery. The language of symbols bridges the visible and invisible. Even today, modern logos and emblems function symbolically. Flags, corporate marks, religious icons, these shapes evoke identity and meaning instantly. Symbolic language has not disappeared, it has evolved. But ancient symbolism operated on a cosmic scale. It linked sky and earth, body and spirit, time and eternity. This chapter invites the listener to shift perspective. Instead of asking, "Did this literally happen?" ask, "What pattern is this symbol describing?" When we learn to read symbols, we begin to see continuity between ancient and modern thought. The circle of the zodiac, the phases of the moon, the radiance of the sun, these are not isolated ideas. They are parts of a symbolic system expressing unity through diversity. The language of symbols is not obsolete. It is foundational. It teaches through image rather than argument. It communicates through pattern rather than command. It invites reflection rather than conclusion. And in learning to see symbolically, we reconnect with the way early humanity understood the cosmos, not as fragments, but as an integrated whole.